Sup everybody, it's Nick. Welcome to this tutorial. Is tutorial even the right word? I mean, I am explaining how stuff works and anyway, welcome to this video about aperture. Aperture is another word for the iris that controls the diameter of the pupil through which light reaches the image sensor. It works just like in our eyes. And the aperture is a physical limitation which size is always stated on the lens's housing, just like on this Canon 50mm 1.4. Right here. Can you guys see it? I hope so. If you want to hear the full technical details on apertures and how they work and how you calculate f-stops, just stay tuned. But if you just want to hear some practical stuff and tips on how to use it, go skip more towards the end of the video. Or this way, whatever. So there is an equation through which f-stops are calculated, and that's this one. And it just states that the f-stop is equal to the focal length of your lens divided by the diameter of the pupil of your lens. Basically what that means is that when you have a 50mm lens and your aperture diameter is 50mm, you would have an f-stop of 1. And there's a row describing full f-stops, which is just like the powers of the square root of 2, meaning it would go like 1, 1.4, and 2, and so on and so forth. And this is the row of full f-stops, but on most cameras you have 1/3 f-stops. So that's why we get like things like 1.2 or 1.8 and so on. So the essence of that is that the amount of light that reaches your sensor is divided by 2 for every full f-stop. So when you go down from 1.4 to 2.0, only half the amount of light will reach your image sensor. And with apertures and varying sizes of that always comes a change in the depth of field. Depth of field just describes how far from your perfect focal distance you can get until all the pixels in your image are gonna get blurry. And yeah. I've just created this diagram of how the light hits the lens and goes through the aperture and then onto the image sensor. And I just did this to show you guys how depth of field is created or why it differs. Meaning that if you have more focused beams, the angle between those light beams will be smaller. That means that more light is going to hit one pixel directly, which means it will be in focus. And if this light just spreads over a couple of pixels, it will get blurry. So coming to the more practical stuff, if you want to take pictures, you always have 3 variables to work with, or 3 parameters. That's first the aperture, second the shutter speed, and third the ISO. The aperture controls how much light goes through the lens and onto your sensor. The shutter speed controls how much time there is for the sensor to gather the light. And third, the ISO is basically the sensitivity of a photo film that was used in DSLRs before we had digital cameras, and it's just reproduced in a digital way. And if you don't go full auto on your camera, never go full auto. You always have those 3 parameters to vary. I just want to give you guys one tip. Mind the depth of field. Everyone wants to shoot with a wide open aperture like 1.2, 1.4, so forth and so on. But this always comes with a very shallow aperture, depth of field. Meaning that very small amounts of the image are going to be in focus. So if your subject just, moves a little bit in front to or back from the camera, it's not going to be in focus anymore, because your focal plane or plane of focus is just going to be very, very shallow. And there's even people doing nothing else than pulling focus on big movie sets. It's their job just to hit the right focal distance. So that's really a hard thing to do. This is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If so, feel free to hit the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, and I just hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye! One more thing that I wanted to tell you guys is that a lot of lenses actually have a depth of field marker built in. So let me get that 50 mil. There we go. There's a little window stating the focal distance, and under it, right under it, there's two markers saying 22. That's if you want to take a picture at f-stop 22, f22, whatever, and your focal distance is like 10 feet. It will say your range is from 6 feet to 14 feet. So anything between these two markers will be in focus.